these fancy clothes, with all these buckles from your head down to your toes. It's very simple, but I'm just another girl. It's not so easy, but I'm giving it a whirl. Is there something that you're trying to prove, with all the makeup and the way you move? Are you looking for some sympathy? No, I'm trying to be the best girl I can be. It's very simple, but I'm just another girl. It's not so easy, but I'm giving it a whirl. Like my martinis dry, cosmos I won't deny. Smoke those long cigarettes. Thank God I'm not dead yet. Done all these crazy things, short of a wedding ring. Just another girl.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Callista Solon, and you're watching NLC Trans. Tonight I'm here with my dear friend and co-host, Tara Alexander. We have a very special guest. We have Diana Lombardi, and you are a political activist and on the board of directors of CTAC, which is the Connecticut Trans Advocacy Coalition.
Yes.
And you are actually a return guest, and hopefully will come back again.
I think I will.
Yeah. So we were hoping you could kind of fill us in on what's going on in the political world, and certainly with the legislation, we're very hopeful that we're going to get some legislation passed here someday.
Well, this year we were, because it was a short session, we did not sponsor a bill. And hopefully next year coming up, we will have a bill for anti-discrimination to add gender identity and expression. And we're gearing up right now because the session is a long session this year. It starts in January and runs to June, and so there's a lot of preliminary work we're doing right now. So
good.
The long session. The rest of us have to work January through December. They work January through June.
Yeah.
Yes, but it kind of gets mad up there on the Capitol.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when they can't balance a budget.
Yeah, neither can I, but that's beside the point. Anyway, so yeah, I'm hoping I'll get to testify this year. Something I've kind of wanted to do.
Well, it's interesting when you testify. You're given 3 minutes, and the way that the Judiciary Committee picks the order of people testifying is a lottery. So even if you get there at 7 in the morning and stand in line, you still have just as good of a chance to get the first and the last spot. So you never know. The last time we ran the bill, my number was 140 something, and I got to testify at 6 p.m.
Wow.
So it was a very long day. I think I got there around 9 and left around 7.
Wow.
They got to introduce me and say, "Good evening." You're allowed 3 minutes, and you also submit a written testimony, but you don't have to read from the testimony. You can give your own whatever you want to speak for those 3 minutes, and it can be something different in the written testimony.
Wow.
Now, you had mentioned the last time we were talking about this that you can give just written testimony too, right?
That's right. You can submit anybody can submit a testimony for any bill, and there is not limited to 1 or 2 pages. You can have as many pages as you want. You can have attachments or anything else you want to put to. I know somebody stuck a video CD.
Wow.
Yeah.
And made 100 some odd copies of it?
Yes. Well, actually, they only made 1, but for a written testimony, they usually want at least 50 copies. So,
wow.
And that's to distribute among
that's right.
the members.
The Capitol lives on paper.
Yeah, our paperless office has not yet materialized.
Yeah.
Well, they do scan it and make it into a PDF, so they do
Right.
have electronic copy, plus they run off all these other copies.
Right. And that's actually been another interesting thing that as we've watched the bill the last time go through, or get as far as it got the last couple times, is they're actually pretty good about posting online the bills and the status of the bills. And
Yes.
the state government website has
Right.
all that information. You can trace it, and
Right.
it's
You
kind
can
of
actually set up so it notifies you on the status of any bill, when it's coming for hearing and when it's being voted on. So,
yeah. They are making it fairly easy for the public to follow and participate in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is very cool. The electronic age, it's wonderful stuff if people actually do it. It really is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think what we probably should do here, before we confuse any of our audience, maybe you could tell us about the bill, because obviously we know this bill. This is a bill that's near and dear to our hearts.
Yes, well,
But,
isn't it obvious? The bill adds gender identity to an expression to the existing laws in Connecticut for anti-discrimination. It prohibits discrimination in housing, employment, credit, public accommodations, and it just adds wherever there is sex called out as a protection, it adds gender identity expression. So it's a very simple bill. You know, it just has about 2 or 3 pages of, you know, where it says it adds to this point. You know, it's nothing new. Other states have had this same bill, you know, since 1975. So it is not breaking new ground.
Right. And interestingly, it's a bill that has a great deal of support.
Oh,
It just somehow never quite gets to the floor.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's
And it's the kind of thing that I know when we've talked to people, they're surprised it's not already codified in law.
Right.
You know, people get very surprised to find that your landlord can throw you out because they don't like the fact that you're trans, or you can be denied, you know, credit services, or you can be denied public accommodations because the person behind the counter doesn't like the way you look or express yourself.
Right. And there's several cases in Connecticut where trans people have been thrown out of stores or restaurants or bars because they made the patrons uncomfortable. And the public gets confused because sexual orientation is covered,
Right.
but not gender identity. So they tend to mix these two together.
And it may be a little ironic, the timing. Isn't this the 50th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And it's like, nowadays people don't even realize when there's a ramp leading up into a store or something, what a big deal that kind of protection can provide. Now, obviously the ADA went a little bit further, but there's been a huge stigma historically in this country for people with disabilities.
Yeah.
That, you know, it would make other people uncomfortable if you let them shop in the same stores. And nowadays people realize it's kind of absurd. And it's just, you know, one more, we're just saying the same thing. It's like, us being out in public, living our lives, keeping to ourselves is not something we should be discriminated against.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's people tend to discriminate against people who are different.
Yeah,
You know?
sure.
And we're really no different than anybody else. We just want to live our lives, make an income, and be able to support our families. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting you say that. I mean, I find myself saying that a lot. It's like we're really not different. We're a lot more the same. There's a lot more about us that's the same than what's different.
And we had a medical person on last week that confirmed that.
Yes.
We had Jalea Nestby was a nurse practitioner.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And and she was talking about gender therapy, hormone therapy, and how hormones affect the body and such. And
Right.
Yeah.
and we asked her about how are your trans patients, the issues they face in life, different from your non-trans patients? And she said, well, they're not.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get high blood pressure, they get diabetes, they get high cholesterol.
Yeah.
And there was a trans person out in Indiana that they just had about on the internet. She was denied service at a hospital, treatment at a hospital,
Wow.
because they said, we don't know how to treat your type. You know.
Wow.
And she went in for coughing up blood. And it had nothing to do with being trans, but the staff just sat there and going, we don't know how to treat you, you know?
Wow, like you're an alien or something.
Right.
And certainly there may be some complications if you're on special hormone therapy or something, but that's true of anyone who walks in off the street to an emergency room whose medication history you don't know.
That's right. And certainly, God, you know, all those postmenopausal women out there are on HRT. It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon.
Right.
Yeah, that's
on top of which, coughing up blood. There certainly seems to be a certain basic level examination that you can do before you should be able to proclaim, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's sort of like, coughing up blood. Well, we probably should do something about that.
Like an X-ray or MRI.
No, take my height, take my weight.
Wow. That's crazy. You know, we still hear things like this, and it just blows me away.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, you've mentioned before, Callie, that we live in a fairly good part of the country where there's a lot of understanding out there. There's a lot of people out there who may not get it, but certainly, you know, want people to be treated equally. They want people to be treated fairly. So it does sort of strike a lot of people as a shock when you start to point out that it's not like that in large parts of the country. It's not like that in even some parts of Connecticut. Right. There are people out there. It's not uncommon on a weekly and monthly basis to see stories where people are kicked out, thrown out, denied services because somebody didn't like the way they looked, the way they dressed, the way they acted.
Yeah.
There was somebody I knew, they slipped and fell on ice one night, and they were taken to the emergency room, and the staff were arguing who was going to treat it, you know? And they ended up telling her, you know, take 2 aspirin and go home. And the next day she was still in pain, and she went into another emergency room, and they found that she broke her back in 3 places.
Oh, wow.
And the first hospital didn't even x-ray her or anything. They just said go home.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
That really is horrible. You know, I hate to hear things like that. I can honestly say that I have not been personally mistreated by any medical practitioners or hospitals or anything in this area. Certainly, everybody's been very, very good and kind to me. But I hate to hear about things like that. That's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you.
Right. And, you know, it all depends because other people who went to the same hospital had no problems. It just happened to be this particular staff that particular night.
Right. Yeah, it's not necessarily something that's intrinsic or systemic, but you get the right group of people together. And, you know, certainly, I understand people are going to be uncomfortable the first time you have to interact with someone who's different from you. But I think the problem is you get a group of those people together and they collectively justify their own inactions.
That's right. Yeah, the group think.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Kind of like a mob, you know.
Yeah, it's sort of mob psychology,
Right.
Where you sort of end up everybody sort of absolves everyone else. Where have we heard this before? Absolves everyone else involved of responsibility by agreeing with them.
Right.
And it's okay to treat that person like